We are back. You guys ready to go over chapter 16? We have to go over psychology. Before we get started, I am listening to Cognition Enhancer. I know I explained this in another video. If you guys haven't seen it, I'll go ahead, and if this is your first time with me, I'll go ahead and read it to you and what it does. Cognition Enhancer for clearer, smarter thinking, learning and intelligence isochronic. Increase intelligence and mental efficiency with this binaural beat with isochronic tone music track that uses frequencies from 11.5 Hz to 14 Hz that focus on assessing the brain to be awake and alert, more focused and concentrated on tasks at hand, relieving you from headaches or stress. So, let's get started. Chapter 16, Psychology. The observation and analysis, knowledge and classification of the activities of the personal consciousness, consisting of the science of psychology, has been studied in colleges and universities for many years, but this personal or conscious, self-conscious mind does not by any means constitute the whole of the mind. There are some very highly complex and very orderly activities going on within the body of a baby. The body of the baby, as such, cannot induce or carry on those activities, and the conscious mind of the baby does not know enough to even plan them or be aware of them. Probably also in most cases, there is no one around the baby who even remotely understands what is going on in this highly complex process of physical life, and yet all those activities manifest intelligence, and intelligence is a very complex and high order. From the examination of what goes on in the human body, from all the complex processes, the beating of the heart and the digestion of foods, the secretion and excretion of the glands, it is apparent that there is in control and order of mentally, which is a high degree of intelligence, but it is a mentality which is operating in the millions of cells which constitute the body, and so operate below the surface of what we term consciousness. It is therefore subconscious. The subconscious mind, again, assumes two phases. Connected with each human person, there is a subconsciousness, which may in some sense be regarded as the subconsciousness of that person, but which merges at a still deeper level into what may be termed universal subconsciousness, or into cosmic consciousness. So, I want to say something to you guys and kind of ponder over this a little and see how you like it. Cosmic consciousness embodied himself in you. Within this cosmic intelligence has every power, every thought, every single thing that has been in existence is inside this cosmic consciousness. And this consciousness individualizes itself in you within your 7 chakra systems, your energy centers. And each one of your energy centers has its own special powers in energy production and releasing. What's another word for release? Energy expenditure, I should say. And it is through these energy centers that you are able to create and use the power of the energy to create what you want to create in the material world. Now, that may sound like a tough order for a lot of you guys. Just ponder over that for a little bit. Think about it, and yeah, with that being said, I'll go ahead and continue reading. That may be illustrated in this way. If you will think of the waves on the surface of Lake Michigan, insofar as they are above the level of the troughs, as standing for so many personal mentalities, and then if you will think of a small body of water not rising above the surface, but in some degree running along with each wave and merging indistinctly at the bottom of the great unmoved mass level, which may be thought as of the deepest level, then those 3 levels of the water in the lake may illustrate to you personal consciousness or self-consciousness, personal subconsciousness and universal subconsciousness, or cosmic consciousness. Now, out of cosmic consciousness springs personal subconsciousness, and out of that in turn, or in connection with it, rises personal consciousness. Wow. Now that is really cool. Sweet. At the beginning of the experience of the child, its government is always wholly from subconsciousness, But as it goes on, it becomes aware, maybe unconsciously, but still in a degree aware of the presence of law of consciousness, which manifest as justice, truthfulness, honesty, purity, liberty, loving kindness, and so on, and begins to relate to itself to them and to be governed by them more and more. The first thing to note is that, while this mental action is going on continuously, we are normally quite unconscious of it. For this reason it is known as the subconscious department of the mind, to distinguish it from the part which functions the senses, of which are the conscious, and which we call the self-conscious. The existence in the body of two distinct nervous systems, the cerebrospinal and the sympathetic, each with its own field of operation and its special functions, prepare us for these two mental departments. When I go over my NASM book with you guys, I'm only going to go over the, nutrition, the human anatomy, the muscles, the nervous system. I'm not going to go over the OPT model. I'm not going to go over any training things, because that wouldn't be fair for the personal trainers of nowadays. But I will be going over the functions of the cerebrospinal and the sympathetic nervous system. It's in the NASM book, and when we get there, we'll get there. Okay, I'll read that part again. The existence in the body of two distinct nervous systems, the cerebrospinal and the sympathetic, each with its own field of operation and its special functions, prepared us for these two mental departments. The cerebrospinal is used by the self-conscious, and the sympathetic by the subconscious. It just as we find in the body that, while the functions and activities of the two nervous systems are different, provision has been made for very close interaction between the two. So we will find that, while the functions and activities of the two mental departments are different, there is a very definite line of activity between them. The main business of the subconscious mind is to preserve the life and health of the individual. Consequently, it supervises all the automatic functions, such as the circulation of blood, the digestion, all automatic muscular action, and so on. It transforms food into suitable material for bodybuilding, returning it to conscious man in the form of energy. Conscious man makes use of this energy in mental and physical work, and in the process uses up what has been provided for him by his subconscious intelligence. The action of the subconscious is cumulative and may be illustrated in the following manner. Suppose you take a tub of water and begin to stir it with a small piece of wood from right to left with a circular motion. At first you will start only a ripple around the wood, but if you keep the wood in motion with the circular movement, the water will gradually accumulate the strength which you are putting into the wood, and presently you will have the whole tub of water in a whirl. If you were then to drop the piece of wood, the water would carry along the instrument that originally set it in motion. And if you were suddenly to stop the wood while it is still projecting in the water, there would be a strong tendency to not only carry the wood forward, but to take your hand along with it. Wow. So in a way, that's kind of like how I was explaining in the last videos. He's using the piece of wood to generate more and more energy within the water in that circular motion. And as that energy increases and gradually becomes stronger, it creates that current. And that current becomes that circular motion. And when he drops that, when all that momentum builds and he drops the piece of wood inside of the water then carries the wood, and then it goes on. That in turn would be very specific to that snowball effect that I was talking about in the last video. The more energy you put into something, the more energy it'll accumulate, and then it'll become oh man, it'll become a snowball effect, momentum. Now suppose that after you have the water whirling, you decide that you do not want it to whirl, or think that you would prefer to have it whirl in the other direction, and so try to set it going the other way. You will find that there is great resistance, and you will find that it will take a long time to bring the water to a standstill, and a still longer time before you get it going the other way. Likewise, if there is something that you're doing right now that you do not want to be doing, stop doing it. Literally. All those people, all those wealthy people, They stopped doing what they didn't want to do and started doing what they wanted to do. They started doing what they wanted to do. You don't think they weren't met with violent opposition from others? You know, all the resistance that they had was coming from others. You know, how can you say you're going to do that when you're doing this? How can you do that when you're not in this situation? Or how could you do that when the circumstances aren't right for you? But the fact of the matter is that everything you do is only the result of what you have been creating. So, start creating what you want to create, and then your life will become a manifestation of that energy that you're putting into what you want. And that's essentially what I'm hoping to teach you guys in these books. I have a lot of books to read to you. Mental Chemistry, You, The Master Key System. I also have How the Mind Works by Christian D. Larson. I just finished that a couple days ago. There was a book I had, The Science of Being Great by Wallace D. Wattles. I gave that away to one of my coworkers. It was a short book. It was very nice. What they had in it was very valuable. I will be buying the series of The Science of Being series by Wallace D. Wattles. He has The Science of Getting Rich, The Science of Being Well, and The Science of Being Great. He is one of my favorite authors, and he is one of those authors that I have never met anyone else that knows about him, which is the exact reason why it is my responsibility to get this information to everyone out there. This will illustrate that whatever the conscious mind does repeatedly, the subconscious mind will accumulate as a habit. Any experience what the subconscious receives is stirred up, and if you give it another one of the same kind, it will add that to the former one, and so keep on accumulating them indefinitely. The tendency being to accumulate activity along any definite line in increasing measure, and this holds true concerning any phase of activity that comes within range of human consciousness. This is true whether the experiences are for our benefit or otherwise, whether the experiences are good or evil. The subconscious is a spiritual activity, and spirit is creative. The subconscious therefore creates the habits, condition, and environment which the conscious mind continues to entertain, continues to suggest to itself, to the subconscious, because when you constantly suggest it, your brain is a tissue. It's matter, just as the whole physical body is. And whatever thought processes you have, whatever thoughts you harbor, you are building those neural pathways within your own brain. Now, this becomes your habitual way of thinking, and it could be very hard to change the way you think, especially when you have neural pathways that are so strong. If you're not, how could I explain it? If those neural pathways are developed along certain lines, it becomes your habitual way of thinking. And if you're not being consciously aware of what you're thinking, you'll be thinking automatically along those lines. So, change those neural pathways. You have to change your thinking. Think positive. Think deliberately. Think constructively, and be creative. There is nothing that you can't do. If we consciously entertain thoughts associated with art, music, and the aesthetic realm, if we consciously entertain thoughts associated with the good, the true, and the beautiful, we shall find these thoughts taking root in the subconsciousness, and our experiences and environment will be a reflection of the thought which the conscious mind has entertained. If, however, we entertain thoughts of hatred, jealousy, envy, hypocrisy, disease, lack, or limitation of any kind, we shall find our experience and environment will reflect the conditions in accordance with these thoughts. As we sow, so shall we reap. The law is no respecter of persons. We may think what we will, but the result of our thoughts is governed by an immutable law. There is nothing either good or evil, but thinking makes it so. We cannot plant a seed of one kind and reap fruit of another. Consciousness exactly. We cannot plant a seed of one kind and reap fruit of another. You can't be doing one thing and then expect the results of doing another. If you're not doing what you want to do, how can you ever become the person you want to be? Consciousness consists in the power to think, to know, to will, and to choose. Self-consciousness is the power to be aware of the self as a thinking, knowing, willing, and choosing individual. The brain is the organ of the conscious mind, and the cerebral spinal nervous system is a system of nerves by which it is connected with all parts of the body. The process of growth is a subconscious process. We do not carry on the vital processes of nature consciously. All the complex processes of nature, the beating of the heart, the digestion of food, the secretion of the glands, require a high degree of mentality and intelligence. The personal consciousness or mind would not be capable of handling these intricate problems. They are therefore controlled by the universal mind, which in the individual we call the subconscious. The universal mind is sometimes referred to as the superconscious, and sometimes the divine mind. The subconscious is sometimes called the subjective, and the conscious the objective. But remember that words are simply the vessels in which thought is carried. If you get the thought, you will not be concerned about the terms. If you understand the processes of how the mind works and the energy centers within the body, you don't really need to know what the terms are, because you're going to understand the function of yourself. Mind is a spiritual activity, and spirit is creative. Hence, the subconscious mind not only controls all the vital functions and processes of growth, but is the seat of memory and habit. The sympathetic nervous system is the instrument by which the subconscious keeps in touch with the feelings or emotions. Thus, the subconscious reacts to the emotions, never to reason. As the emotions are much stronger than the reason or intellect, the individual will therefore frequently act in exactly the opposite manner from what the reason or intellect would dictate. The sympathetic nervous system is the instrument by which the subconscious mind keeps in touch with the feelings and emotions. Do not suppress your feelings. Do not hide your emotions, for they connect you with the subconscious mind, your spiritual body. It is axiomatic that two things cannot occupy the same space at the same time. What is true of things is true of thoughts. If, therefore, any thought seeks entrance to the mental realm which is destructive in its nature, it should be quickly displaced by a thought which has a constructive tendency. Herein lies the value of a ready-made affirmation, such as Qui's affirmation, "Day by day, in every way, I am growing better and better," or the Andrews affirmation, "I am whole, perfect, strong, powerful, loving, harmonious, and happy." Now remember what affirmations are. Affirmations are formal suggestions that you suggest to yourself. You have to affirm who you are. You have to keep reaffirming who you are and what you are. This life is yours. You are the creator. You are a creator. You are connected with the universal mind. And this mind has given its intelligence and all of its abilities and all its energies stored inside of you. You were created in the likeness and image of the universal. Now, affirmations, you have to keep affirming who you are, because there is another book. It's called what is it called? Practical Mental Influence by William Walker Atkinson, and he talks about the influence of the thoughts of others on you. Once you start going into the direction of where you want to go, you are going to meet violent oppositions by everyone else because of their thought process and how they perceive you. A lot of people aren't aware of the world within and what they are doing when they are thinking. Your thoughts are real things, just as real as the element, or your thoughts are real things, they're a real element, just as the air you breathe. So when you are releasing your thoughts, they are not only picked up by other minds, but you are impressing it on your own subconscious mind. Other people will be thinking a certain way about you, and you will be receiving those thoughts of you from them. This can make you very uneasy. This can make you very... the energy they're releasing could really be down on you, which is why they say that the man who is persistent is the one who wins and that does not give up. You have to keep going. Don't worry about what other people think. Don't worry about how they feel about it, because this is what God gave you to do, and this is who God made you. So, do what you're born to do. These or similar affirmations may be committed to memory and repeated until they become automatic or subconscious. Autosuggestion. As physical conditions are but the outward manifestations of mental conditions, it will readily be seen that by constantly holding the thought expressed in the affirmation in the mind, that it will be but a comparatively short time until conditions and environment begin to change so as to be in accordance with the new method of thinking. There was something that Emerson had said. Wallace D. Ruddles writes it in one of his books, The Science of Being Great. And he says, you are who you are.